This story was nearly lost until someone whispered it to the flames. Pull up a log, kick a seat, let the dark settle in. Because the fire remembers what the world forgets, and once the fire starts speaking, it doesn't stop. Some say the stories it remembers are just legends. Others say they happen exactly this way. But you'll have to decide for yourself. Welcome to Campfire Horror. Tonight, the fire remembers voices that were never supposed to speak, phones that rang without numbers, radios that spoke names not yet dead, pipes that echoed with cries too old to be heard. Every story you're about to hear has one thing in common. Someone answered when they shouldn't have. Story 1, the walkie-talkie in the basement. When my grandfather died, we had to clean out his house. He was the type who kept everything boxes stacked like tombstones, drawers full of batteries that hadn't worked since the 80s, and shelves of old, blinking electronics that looked like they'd whisper secrets if you turned your head the right way. But there was one box buried behind a false panel in the basement. It was sealed with duct tape and marked in black marker. Do not open. Ever. 3:07 a.m. Of course I opened it. I was 17, grieving, and curious in the worst way. Inside was a single walkie-talkie bulky, scratched, and humming faintly, even though there were no batteries inside. I thought it was broken. Until that night. At exactly 3:07 a.m., I clicked on. There was static. Then a voice. It sounded familiar. Too familiar. Hello? Is anyone there? I froze, because the voice was mine. Not just similar, exactly mine. Tone, pitch, everything. I whispered back. Hello? The other me answered immediately. Thank God. I didn't think I'd reach you this early. I thought it was a prank. One of those apps or tricks someone plays during grief. But I knew things. He told me what was written in a childhood journal I burned in a backyard fire. He described my current room, including the socks I'd left under the bed. He told me what dream I'd had 2 nights ago. I'm you, he said. From 5 years in the future, and I'm trying to stop something. The walkie clicked off. No matter what I did, I couldn't get it to turn back on. Until the next night, same time, 3:07 a.m., he was back. You haven't found the hidden notebook yet? Look behind the boiler. I did. And I found it. My grandfather's journal. Rambling, coded, paranoid entries. Talking about voices through time, timelines collapsing, and something called the cross-frequency entity. That was the first night I started hearing it. Between transmissions, a low whisper, not quite a voice, more like intent. Like something trying to mimic language without knowing how. The other me heard it too. He said the entity used devices to travel. That walkie-talkies, radios, old phones, they were like open windows. It learns your voice first, he said. Then it learns how to use it. One night, I fell asleep early. When I woke up, it was 3:12 a.m. and the walkie was already on. My voice was talking to something, only it wasn't me. It was using my voice like a puppet. He's almost ready, it said. He trusts me now. I unplugged the walkie, smashed it with a hammer, burned what was left. Thought that was the end of it, until last week. I was moving into my first apartment, and in the back of the closet, taped to the wall behind a loose panel, was another walkie-talkie, same model, same scratches. This time, there was a note. You stopped nothing. It was never just you. And then the walkie clicked on. My voice came through again, but this time, it wasn't talking to me. It whispered, third version confirmed, commencing overlay, host unaware. And somewhere in the house, another walkie turned on. Story 2. We heard a baby crying through the pipes. We didn't think much of it at first. Just an old house settling. That's what the inspector said. Pipes making noise, air pockets, water hammering. It wasn't a big deal until the sound changed. Until the sounds started to cry. We had just moved into the house 2 weeks earlier. An old Victorian, half-rotted from years of neglect. But it had charm. Gothic arches, original floors, and a clawfoot tub I'd been dreaming about since we started house hunting. It was everything we wanted, until the first night we heard it. A baby, crying, through the pipes. It came from the bathroom sink. A soft, warbling wail, like an infant buried underwater. I turned the faucet on. It gurgled like the sound was trying to get out. My husband didn't hear it at first, but the next night he did. We turned off the water main, thinking maybe it was echoing from a neighbor. We lived on a 2-acre lot, no neighbors. The crying continued every night around 2 a.m., and after a week, the crying turned into words, soft ones, slurred, but clear enough that we could both make them out. Cold. Alone. Down here, we called a plumber. He opened the pipes under the bathroom sink, said everything looked normal, but when he cut a piece of pipe open to check for corrosion, he flinched. pulled out what looked like a shred of cloth, baby blue, stained dark. He left 5 minutes later and wouldn't return our calls again. That night, I ran the tub for a hot bath, hoping to relax, forget. But as the water poured in, the sound returned louder, crying, screaming, then knocking. From inside the pipes, 3 sharp taps like a fist against metal, then silence. And one last sound before I turned off the water, a whisper, and not the baby. We started sleeping downstairs, avoiding the bathroom, until one night we woke up soaked. The pipes had burst, but not with water. The bathroom floor was covered in something thick and red, something that smelled like formaldehyde. We moved into a hotel the next day, but the sounds followed. Now, the crying came from the shower head, then the radiator, then the toilet tank. Every new room had a different voice. Some pleading, some mocking. One voice whispered my full name and the exact time I was born. We called a medium. She walked the property for hours, didn't say a word. Then she looked at us and said, "This place is built on resonance. Something was buried here, not a body, a sound. And sound is harder to silence than the dead." We returned home only once to collect what we could. And in the bathroom mirror, the word down was etched into the fog from our breath. I stared at the sink, then opened the cabinet beneath it. Something was stuffed deep in the drain trap. I pulled it free. A baby monitor. Old dead, but warm. The lights blinked once. Then I heard a cry. Not from the monitor. From behind me. I turned. The bathtub faucet was dripping, blood, and in the puddle forming at its base, a reflection. Not mine. Story 3. The voice on the other end was me. I work in customer support, night shifts. One of those generic call centers where we answer for dozens of companies. You'd be surprised how many corporations outsource their helplines. Especially overnight. At 3 a.m., most of the calls are dull. Reset a password. Cancel a subscription. Explain why someone was charged for a service they forgot they signed up for. But sometimes, the phone rings and no one answers. Just silence. Or worse, breathing. That's what started happening a few weeks ago. Once or twice a night, no number. No caller ID. Just static. Then breathing. Then nothing. Until one night, a number showed up, and it was mine. I stared at the screen. It wasn't just similar. It was my full number area code and all. I thought it was a glitch, so I answered, "Hello, this is Alex. How can I?" And then I heard my own voice on the other end. Slightly off, slower, like someone doing an impression of me, just wrong enough to make your stomach turn. "Alex," it said. "Don't hang up." I froze. Not because it was my voice, but because of what it said next. "Do you remember the red notebook you buried in the woods behind the house in 3rd grade? My mouth went dry. No one knew about that. Or the lie you told your mom. Right before she crashed the car, I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just my voice. It was my memory. I tried to interrupt, but it kept speaking. Listing things I'd never told anyone, not even myself, not out loud. Then came the worst part. "You have 60 hours left," I asked. "Until what?" "Until we switch." The call dropped. And the screen went black for a full minute. Not the phone screen. The monitors. The lights. Everything. When they flicked back on, no one else had noticed. But the phone log showed the call lasted 66 minutes. I had no memory past the first 5. I started researching. Turns out, it's not unheard of. People getting calls from their own numbers. People answering themselves and vanishing soon after. Some say it's a future self trying to warn them. Others say it's a copy something that learns your life piece by piece. And once it knows everything, it doesn't need you anymore. The next night I called my own number. I thought I could reverse it, beat it to the punch, but I didn't get a voice. I got a recording, my voicemail, but I hadn't used that message in years. "Hi, you've reached Alex. I'm not here right now." Because you're not supposed to be either. I left work early that night, got home, locked the doors, turned off my phone. But it rang anyway, from inside my room, from a second phone. Sitting on my nightstand, same make, same case, same crack on the corner. And when I picked it up, the voice said, "You should have let me finish the call." Then I heard my own footsteps behind me. Story 4. My ham radio picks up the dead. I've been a ham radio hobbyist for most of my life. Something about the simplicity, the static, the old school crackle of analog waves. It felt pure. Like I was part of a world that whispered beneath the noise of modern life. People think it's just geeks talking Morse code in their basements. But when the conditions are right, when the weather shifts and the clouds press low, you can hear things. Things not meant for this side of the air. The first time it happened, I thought I was dreaming. It was late. I'd fallen asleep at the desk. The radio flickered, lights glowing green. Then it started. Morse code. Fast, urgent, terrified. I translated it half asleep, scratching into a notepad. It said, name, Catherine Morris. Time of death, 1:24 a.m. Location, 232 Pine Creek Lane. I checked the clock. 1:14 a.m. 10 minutes later, I heard sirens outside. My neighbor, Catherine Morris, was found dead in her garden. I told myself it was coincidence. Maybe I heard it wrong. Maybe it was the stress. But the next night, it happened again. Different name, different address. Another death. And always 10 minutes ahead. I started writing them down. Dozens. They were never broadcast twice, never explained. But the pattern was clear. Every message was a warning. And every death was real. At first, I thought I could help. I called the police. Tried to warn a woman who was about to fall from a third-story window. She didn't believe me, but the fall still happened. Then came my name. It came through at 2:33 a.m. on a Wednesday. Name, Peter Linwood. Time of death, 3 o'clock a.m. Location, 15 Sycamore Lane. That's me, my address, my death. In 27 minutes, I panicked. Locked the doors, shut off the lights, clutched the radio like it was a lifeline. Then another message came through seconds after the first. Same voice, different code, error, timeline divergence. Second signal required. Choose recipient. I didn't understand. Until the third message hit. This time, it wasn't Morse. It was a voice. My voice. Pick someone else, just once. They'll die instead. It'll buy you a year. I didn't know what to do. I sat there, heart pounding. At 2:59 a.m., the light on the radio turned red. And it said one word. Truth. I didn't answer. The lights flickered. The air grew heavy. But 3 o'clock a.m. came. And went no death, just static. And the next night, another name came through. Not mine. Someone else. And I recognized them. The message had been altered. I was safe. But someone else wasn't. I didn't remember choosing, but something did. Something in the signal. And last night, another voice came through. My voice. You're already part of the loop now. Stop listening, and you'll hear it in your sleep instead. Story 5. Don't say hello after midnight. There used to be this old forum buried deep in the web. No pictures. No profiles. Just black text on white screen. It was called the Hello Thread. Hundreds of posts. All the same topic. If you answer your phone after midnight and say hello before the other person does, you let it in. Sounded like garbage urban legend. Something someone made up for karma or attention. Until it happened to me. It started with a dare. I was on a Discord call with 3 friends. Around 1:30 a.m., we were swapping scary stories, trying to one-up each other. Then one of them brought up the hello thread. You have to say hello first, he said. If you wait, you're fine. But if you answer the phone and say hello before they speak ... it knows your voice. So I did it. I typed in the number from the post. Blocked. Unknown origin. All zeros. I hit call. The line picked up on the first ring. And I laughed. Hello. Nothing. Just silence. Until the tiniest click. Then breathing. And then my own voice. Too late. The call dropped. My friends laughed it off. I tried to forget about it. But my phone rang again that night. Unknown. I let it ring. Didn't answer. I called again the next night. Same time. Same ringtone. Then a text. Just one word. Hello? The next day, my voicemail changed. I didn't do it. It was a recording of me sounding half asleep saying, can't talk right now. I'm almost through. I deleted it. Changed my passcode. Factory reset the phone. Didn't matter. The calls kept coming. Every night at 12:03 a.m. exactly. I stayed up late, once to see what would happen if I answered but stayed silent. The line picked up. Silence. Then the sound of my bedroom door creaking. But I was staring at it. It wasn't moving. Then came the whisper. You said hello. You invited me in. Things started changing. My reflection lagged in mirrors. My voice echoed a split second too late on calls. People started saying I looked tired. But I wasn't tired. I was awake all the time. Because I was afraid to sleep. Afraid the next time I woke up, it wouldn't be me behind my eyes. I tried destroying the phone. Tossed it off a bridge. Didn't work. The next night, my microwave blinked. 12:03 a.m. and its speaker said, hello. Then my laptop turned on. Then the baby monitor in the neighbor's house. Then the TV. They all played my voice. I don't know what it wants. It won't say. It just keeps calling. Every night. Sometimes I let it ring. Sometimes I scream into the receiver. Sometimes I unplug everything. But it always finds a way back in. And tonight, it didn't call at 12:03. It called at 11:59, which means it's getting faster. And if I stop hearing the ring before it picks up, that means it's already here. And if you get a call from my number after midnight, don't say hello. The fire's quiet now. The voices? Gone. But just because it stopped whispering doesn't mean it stopped listening. If you hear your own voice coming from somewhere it shouldn't be, don't speak back. The fire remembers those who do. If this episode left you glancing at your phone a little differently, leave a comment. Let the fire know you were here by liking the video. And if you want to hear what the flames remember next, click the video on the screen. Subscribe to take your place by the fire before it fades. Until next time.